This is Beyond with Heather Tesch, where we examine near-death experiences and life itself, hopefully making this life a little better. Hello, once again, my guest is Donna Rebadow. This is part 2. If you haven't listened to part 1, do that first. Donna shared an amazing near-death experience.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. Your story is just incredible. You talked about time, or actually no time, and that's really hard for a lot of us to wrap our heads around. Did everything happen all at once, or did it happen consecutively?
Well, there's concepts over there. There's things that happen over there that don't happen here. So it's hard to explain that, but it happened all at once linearly. You know, it's like both can be
everything
true.
Everywhere all at once.
And I haven't seen that movie yet.
I haven't either.
I'm supposed to see that movie, but it happens. It feels linear. It feels like you have a body. It feels like you can see and hear, but there's no time, which means it was an immediate. That was one of the first things. Besides, oh, now I'm dead. Oh my God, I'm dead. To there's no time, and it was it's a void. It's interesting. So, since I came back, I can feel time ticking in my skin, and most people don't understand what that means. But I don't even know how to explain that. But it's weird. But there's no time. There's absolutely.
Well, from skin, let's go to cells, because you said the love was so amazing that your cells were feeling it and they were so happy. What did that feel like?
That was kind of another incredible thing that I didn't realize I could feel 1 trillion cells. I could feel every cell, and that was new. That was what's going on here? But the love is, there's a love that is it's beyond bliss. It's beyond love. It's a care, the creator of the universe is, I call it a designer death, because it's designed for me. This was my experience. People don't have to, I believe you're going to have your own, because it's God that knows you, that knows every part of you, that knows your exact being, that knows every cell, that knows every speck of atoms in the entire universe. How do you get your mind around that? And this is the being, this is the creator who loves you, that has a name for you. So this love is just penetrating my essence, my soul, I don't know. And again, I call it Heather, I use words like my cells or my soul, but it was so comprehensive, this love, that when I died, I didn't want to come back. You don't want to come back. And you have love here. You know, you have family and friends. I have dogs. I have stuff. But it's like, this is a love beyond love.
Obviously, being in front of the creator of the universe, this is a very sacred event. And yet, God seems pretty chill, because you swore and he didn't have a problem.
He didn't evaporate me. You know, I didn't want to swear. I didn't want to say, oh shit, and people say, well, when I die, I'm going to ask God this. I go, okay, let me know. Can I be there? 'Cause I want to be there. I want to watch. I'm being vulnerable here. I'm putting myself out to everyone on the planet that's going to hear this, and that's very vulnerable. So in a human sense, it's scary. But when I think about God protecting me, and he will get the people that needs to hear this, it's like his love coming through me for them. It's worth it. This love is just worth it. And it's it's going to be incredible. People, you're going to have when you pass. Now, I've heard people say, they've had bad stories and they've seen things. That wasn't my experience. My experience was the love of God, of the universe, who wants me back. Okay, I'll come back. But it's very hard to be here. It's very hard to be here at times, most of the time.
You were told to talk about choice. And I think what you're saying in that is choice also involves our thoughts. And it's really important that we guard those thoughts toward others and then also probably toward ourselves.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, there's lots of components of thinking, and I would explain to my students, it's like you have an 8-track mind. You have these little tracks. At times you're thinking about your grocery list or your relationships or, big things you got to do. And so those are all thoughts. You're thinking that. But you also have criticism, like to criticize or to make judgments and part of teaching psychology is teaching about the fundamental attribution error to my students. And I said, there's a concept in psychology called the fundamental attribution error, and that's human beings fundamentally have to attribute something in their experience. And usually they make an error, meaning that when they go to attribute someone's behavior, they attribute it to the situation and not the person, or to the personality and not the situation. So the fundamental attribution error is, Heather, you were late today on the call. You were 20 minutes late and had me waiting. This isn't really true. She didn't have me waiting. And so I'm going to start attributing your personality. Oh, Heather, she's lazy. I don't know why she's rude. You start making these judgments, these attributes instead of the situation. Like, Heather's car broke down. Heather had an emergency at the house. Instead of attributing it to the situation, we attribute it to the personality. That's what I'm saying to be aware of. Beware of the fundamental attribution error of when something happens or you're judging or attributing something. Be a little kinder to yourself and to the other person. Start thinking more of what their situation could be and not their personality. Could Heather have, maybe she, tripped coming into the studio and landed on her knee and broke her kneecap or whatever it is. And it could be as something like that or something even as subtle as, road rage. I don't know if that's really subtle. But how you think about other people on the planet. Be kinder to how you think about them, and absolutely be kinder to yourself. And it's really true more of women than men, if I can say that. We tend to be really, really hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up, and don't give yourself that energy. So it's really, and it's also tough to be in the moment because we tend to be in the past or we tend to be in the future. We tend to think about, there's another concept in psychology called this feels like that. When something happens, somebody says something to you, and it go, oh man, that feels like when that happened when I was 10, and that person was a bully. So this feels like bullying. This feels like that. And so you have to be careful about being in the present moment. And okay, that happened when you were 10. You're now however old you are. Bring that maturity to this situation. Bring this kindness to yourself about, again, if you don't do the fundamental attribution error and you don't take it personally, it can change how you think. Oh, I'm at fault. And no, this is what happened. Be kind, be nice to yourself.
Well, and also, I believe what you're saying is that so often we think it's our words and our actions that are going to impact another person. But actually, our thoughts will impact other people, which is pretty incredible to think about.
Yeah, and if you listen to NDE people and talk about a life review, you're going to get to see that. I didn't have the life review when I died, but my friend Paul Elder had a life review. And you get to see how you impacted that person. So you're going to have that situation come up, and you're going to be in that person's place. And so a lot of times I'll tell people, do you want to have that in your life review?
It's a good point.
Now, for me, I didn't have the right life review when I died, but I have a life review every day. So God made sure that every single day that I've been here since July 17th, 1998, every single moment I have life reviews. And that's kind of tough sometimes.
Donna, you're an academic, college professor, very logical. But what happened to you was very illogical. So how did this change you, change your beliefs and your thoughts about life?
If my belief was in a box and you had the box on the table and you took a sledgehammer, that's what it shattered everything that I thought about. Everything from religion, spirituality, beliefs, choice, surrender, everything, to the point where it's how many years later? So it's 2023. I mean, it's like, quite a time later, and it's still hard to assimilate. And if you talk to some near-death experiencers, it took me a while before I could even talk about it. And I wouldn't even talk about it in public until a few years ago. I won't even talk about it. And my brother called me the other day and said, I heard your NDE video, and I didn't know I didn't know that this happened to you. I said, I didn't talk about it, even to my brother. I mean, it's like, it's such a life-changing, and what happened, I still say, like the question you asked me, how do you explain the difference between time and eternity? And I still struggle with that. I struggle with what I heard, what I saw, what I felt. It's a life changer, huge.
Did you come back with any gifts?
Yeah, my psychic abilities changed, huge. Precognitive dreams that are precognitive. I now work looking for missing people. So I work with people that are missing. So I do remote viewing, and I'm trying to use my newfound psychic gifts for the better of humanity. So it's things like that, remote viewing, and it helps in my acupuncture because when people come in, I can see them. I see them. And so when they're telling me stuff, I'm like, oh, what about this? How did you know about that? Well, so when you've been on the other side, and the other side hasn't stopped communicating with me, so I still get info.
You mentioned psychic abilities, and that expanded, but I heard in another interview you say that you also had some of those capabilities when you're young. And I find it very interesting that a lot of near-death experiencers say that. And because there's no time on the other side, I wonder, is it related to your near-death experience?
That's another thing that I contemplate. So, yeah, when I was 4, I got to, have 4-year-old psychic stuff happen and 8-year-old stuff. So things were happening, and I thought it was normal until I found out it wasn't. And that meant that people started telling me, what are you talking about? I go, well, that person feels this way. Well, how do you know that? And so I'd say, well, I'm empathetic. I can feel that. And they said, no, people don't do that. So I had to be careful. So when all these kids that have these abilities, they're going to get, somewhere along the line, someone's going to say, well, that's not normal, or what are you doing? And so kids don't want to feel like they're not normal, so they're going to shut that off. But yeah, I had I've known my guardians and could feel my guardians for some time, but I thought that was different from near death. So I'm not talking about my psychic abilities. I'm not talking to anybody about them when they come up. Whether I was in a situation where I was teaching and it was a student in front of me, or I'm in acupuncture and it's a patient in front of me, and I get this knowledge, I'm not sitting there going, oh, wait a minute, Heather, I just found out this piece of information. Maybe you'd want. You don't talk like that. You just, so I had that. I have that, but it's different. And I never expected near death because I didn't even know there was something called near death experience. I didn't know there was NDE. I didn't know there was group of people. The last thing on the planet I expected was to drown that day. And the last thing I was expected, everything that changed after that. So you can have these psychic abilities and have these sensitivities that you don't necessarily share with everyone. They don't know. But the near death was like total game changer.
You said you're still connected to the other side. Can you explain that?
That's going to sound weird.
That's okay.
It's just like, yeah, I hear them, feel them, see them all the time. And them are my guardians, my protectors, my, like if I had a message for Heather, it would be your people telling my people stuff, and I tell my people to go do stuff for other people. And it's not people, it's beings, but it's not, I mean, is it angels? Is it beings? There's words that we get caught up with because they have, they have a lot of emotion packed with them. Like if I say angel, people automatically think, of their belief system about angels. So I don't know if they're angels or they're beings. They're just, it's just the other side is open.
Do you think there's a lot of things about this life, this world, that we just don't understand? Other dimensions or?
Absolutely. There's, I don't think people understand how much they're guarded and how much they're loved and how much they're protected. Because suffering, the biggest question we have to answer here as human beings is suffering. Like health, death, dying, people being mean globally. It's, I get asked that question a lot. Then if God is a loving God, then why do babies die? If God is a loving God, then why is there Putin? Why is there wars? Why is there? And I said, first of all, this is a working planet. You come here to work out. I'm starting to get into my belief system of what I saw. So this planet isn't. It's not. It's a school. It's a school. It's a school of Earth. It's things you have to work out. Things you might have decided that was good for your soul before you came in here. And people will say, well, I didn't make any decisions about who I am before you came in here. Yeah, you kind of did, but if you don't believe that, it's really okay. But there's another near-death experiencer, Natalie Sudman, who wrote a wonderful book, Application of Impossible Things, and she talks about guides and decisions that we make before we come in here. And you'll hear me, if you're around me a lot, Heather, you'll hear me say, I agreed to this. What was I thinking?
I think we all say that at times.
I agreed to this. But it's how you view purpose on the planet. So I think I would have to teach a class in what's really here. A class on, okay, class, today we're going to talk about why the heck are we here and what are we doing here and what's the purpose. And but people have a hard time with their belief system and assimilating what I saw and heard into their belief system. So I probably can answer you specifically, Heather. If you had a question specifically, Donna, does this happen for Heather? Yeah, well, I do better one-on-one than I do globally. So,
all right, let's try this then. You mentioned the arms lifting you up out of the water. There was no one there. And you just talked about we're always guarded. So do we always have protectors like that? Does Heather always have protectors like that around me?
Yep. Absolutely. And people would say, well, that can't be true because bad things happen. How do you know when, like, if I have protectors around me all the time, why did I drown? So that was my, and there's a big debate between free will and predestination that I don't want to get into, because we have free will, we have choice, and yeah, that's a whole another rabbit hole. And angels or beings can protect you, but you have that free will to do stupid things, so they can protect me all they want, and I decide to walk out in the middle of traffic in Manhattan. There's consequences in the physical world for choices we make.
Even if we've made some choices, there are people that are struggling right now. Do you have any advice for them?
Life's hard. This is tough. I told you before, this is not heaven. This is tough. And we have tough choices. This is not easy. This isn't just about how you think about people, but you could be presented with, I hear people that, my dad died, my dog died, this happened to me, I was abused. How do I deal with all this? And it's like, well, I would get a good counselor. I would get people that I can go. That's why we have a range of professions. There's sometimes you need to see a counselor. There's sometimes you need to, see somebody in your faith or to have faith. But I understand suicide. My nephew committed suicide, so don't even talk to me about. I understand that life gets too hard, and with suicide, it's someone. Their pain is greater than their resources. They have so much pain that they don't know how to get out of the pain, so they say, "Well, I'm going to commit suicide." I understand how tough it can be, and I don't have every answer, Heather. It's even though I've been to the other side and I've talked with God, there's 7 billion people here with 7 billion situations, and I would say, you're not alone. You do have help, but it's not like you sit at home. I'm not sitting at home waiting for God to bring the groceries to my door, ring the doorbell. It's a working planet. I got to get up off my butt and go get a job, and I have to get, this is how the monetary situation is on the planet. I have to go get a job and get money and pay for groceries, and sometimes I don't have that money. I become homeless. Then there's the whole issue of mental illness, and sometimes it's just tough. Do the best you can. For me, it was about education and, counseling and education and helping people. Boy, you're a tough interviewer. I don't know how to...
Sorry.
I don't know how to help people. It'd be like... that's how I would deal with my students one-on-one. They would come in and they would have these terrible situations. And we sat down and we drew pros and cons, and what can you control here? What are things that you specifically can control in this situation? And I'd say, okay, let's make some choices here. Let's see what we can control. So can you leave this situation? And if you need help, I can help you. Like some of my women students were in abusive situations, and I knew the resources for, if you want to leave the situation, I can get you into this shelter today if you want. So there are resources on the planet to help you, and you're gonna, I've had students that say, I can't leave. I said, okay, do you have kids? Can we get the kids out of the situation? I've had students that have been killed. So, it's like, it's tough. And so I just try to match people up with resources. And that's the best I could say about people who are struggling. What are you struggling with? Are there resources available? Can you get to those resources? Can you, if you don't know where they are, can you get to a teacher or a pastor or a social worker? Can you look up on the phone book or now online? Can you find suicide hotlines? Can you find resources to help you? That's really what we're meant to do here.
So this might be one of those questions that's hard to answer, but obviously we're all individuals. We have individual purposes, but is there an overall general purpose that we all have?
To love, to evolve, to overcome, to work it out. Yes, to raise the consciousness of the planet by your kindness. That's absolutely the purpose of everyone here, is to evolve, overcome your circumstances, the best of your ability, to do the best you can, and to maybe change how you might think about something. You know, to me, with my students, if I could just get them to change 1 degree difference in their thinking, like instead of being the victim, what can you do here to not be the victim? What can you do here right now in this situation, this lousy set of cards that you were given? Is there some way that we can change this 1 degree? And if you can get by that for a week, let's next week try another degree. If in the next week, try another degree. But to evolve, overcome, understand where you are. You're on this planet that's tough. I can tell you this, that there are beings out there and dimensions out there that wouldn't come to Earth if you gave them $1 million. They just are. They understand that how tough it is here. This place, this Earth place, being a human being on Earth is one of the toughest things in the universe, multiverse to be. So the people here, first of all, by being born here, you're tough. You're tougher than you think you are. And you're loved more than you think you are. So you asked me before about, are there things we don't understand? Yes, you don't understand how loved you are because you don't feel it. I don't feel this. And we think we have to feel it. And sometimes I just say, one step in front of the other one. Get your resources, get help, how can we help you rise above these circumstances?
Well, that is such an important message. And I love the kindness and empathy, and then knowing as well that we are loved. Donna, you have a podcast of your own. Can you tell us a little bit about that and where people can find it?
Yes, it's called Exploring Consciousness with Donna on all the podcast stations. I broadcast from 2019 to 2022. I stopped interviewing in the fall so I could write a book. So I have a book coming out called Wednesdays with Sadie, Miracles at Maricopa. And it's my work with my seeing eye dog. No, I'm not blind. I train seeing eye dogs. My seeing eye dog, Sadie, and it's a story about her getting sick and being career changed, and the two of us going up to Maricopa Medical Center and working with kids for 4.5 years. And so I stopped my podcast so I could finish that book. I have a second book I'm working on with my friend Sean about ESP and remote viewing and how people can tap into that part of their intuition. And then a third book on all the life experiences I've had from being a waitress in Switzerland, to a pilot, to a college professor, to a guide dog trainer, to a metalsmither, to all. I've had like 10,000 experiences here. And it's to show people the possibilities of a life where you make good choices. I don't always make good choices, but that's my third book.
And where can people find more information on this?
So if you go to any podcast station, Google Podcast or wherever you get your podcasts, and look up Exploring Consciousness with Donna, I have 121 podcasts, I think I did. You can listen to all those. They're going to be my interviews with physicists, near-death experiencers, psychics, mediums. We're exploring consciousness from, if you think you woke up and you want to kind of figure out the spiritual path, that would be a good podcast for you. The books are coming out. I'm not sure if I'm going to probably publish on Amazon or something like that. So the website is, I think, exploreconsciousness.com. You can look for it there. I have a YouTube channel, and I'm trying to turn my audio podcasts, I'm putting them up in video. So there's a lot of times people just want to see the video. There's times people just want to drive in their car and hear the audio.
Donna, you've given us so much information and a lot of things to ponder today. Can you give us just a brief, just some parting thoughts before we go?
It's not as bad as you think it is. Can you change your perspective a little bit? Can you be in the moment? Just for today, try it. Can you, when you find yourself, you catch yourself being in the past too much, just stop, oh man, I'm in the past. What's right in front of me today? Is there someone here that could use a little love or a little kindness? What's before me in this moment? And so my sister has a really nice saying, and I kind of like it. She goes, man plans, God laughs. So you still have to plan your future. You're still going to have your future. Go ahead and plan it. I did that with my students. Let's plan it out. Let's have a plan. But then be willing to let life flow through you. And please don't make the fundamental attribution error for yourself or for others. Please be a little bit kinder just for today. Raise the consciousness of the planet for today. And I do that by meditating and prayer. You can call it prayer or meditation or whatever. Just kind of stop, and can you open your heart? Can you not be as guarded? Can you just love somebody? Can you just be a little bit better today?
Thank you. That's great wisdom. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
Thanks for joining me on Beyond with Heather Tesch. Please add comments and questions you'd like future guests to answer. Also, if you liked what you heard, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. That'll help keep this podcast going. You can also go to Beyond with Heather Tesch to look for more episodes.